Yo, 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 what is going on, everybody? Happy New Year's. It is Gabriel Santos. I'm assuming most of you watching this will be people who have been subscribed for a long time. But in case you're new here, you probably found this channel because of all the many videos I have on the topic of weed, weed addiction, weed dependency, how to have discipline with weed, other life stuff as well, but largely the topic has been around weed and how to have some sense of control and to avoid, overusing it, and at the worst of it, like neglecting life, at the best of it, somehow accomplishing your goals and not letting weed get in the way of those things, right? So, um, with that said, uh, I am proud to announce that I am quitting weed entirely for the year of 2026. And in general, I am moving on from marijuana as a regular lifestyle choice, meaning my goal isn't even to aim towards some sense of moderation. I hesitate to say the words like quit forever. I don't have any judgments. I don't even have any problems with weed as a substance in terms of it's bad for me and it's wrong, especially the it's wrong piece. But I've had some recent discoveries in the last couple months. For those curious, the last I used was sometime right before the new year. I want to say like December 29, 2025, for whoever's counting. Um, and I have a lot to share, not just based on this decision, but the things that led up to the decision, as well as a couple of pretty serious breakthroughs I've had. I will dive more into detail in other videos, but I just want to just share that that is my commitment. Um, I'm excited to share new content with you guys along that journey, along those lines. And to be frank with you all, and this will tie into some of the breakthroughs I've had. Um, for the longest time, my goal was to go from addicted and dependent to disciplined and moderated when it came to weed. And if I'm being honest, a big part of that desire was actually because a couple things. One was like, I didn't want to feel ashamed when it came to not only my history with weed, but like I didn't want to I had a hard time admitting like, oh, I'm someone that can't use it. And for me, and I'm sure many of you can relate, I just didn't want whatever decision I made to be one based on fear, to be one based on shame, because historically that has never worked or lasted for me, anyways. Point being, what I did want was some sense of empowerment, some sense of clarity around the whole situation, um, and ultimately to be free of especially the negative patterns, right? And what I mean by negative patterns in my case is, um, let's say I'll go 2 weeks without using, 3 weeks, a month, whatever. I'll go some period of time without using. Or let me back up, right? Let me back up. I will go months with using, right? And what that would look like for me and what separates this pattern with someone who like does it recreationally, or someone who can like do it at the end of the day and has no problems whatsoever, right? The difference between that and myself is it would just become this hyper dependent thing where essentially I was using marijuana as my primary regulator. And what I mean by that is it was like I just, what would happen was I would just do the bare minimum in life and like just get stoned. And it's weird to say those kind of things out loud. And again, this is not to demonize getting high, because in reality, when I'm using weed that way, it is purely to cope. It is purely to distract and escape and avoid, and not in a healthy way, right? Not in a, I had a long day's work and man, I really showed up how I want to in life and it's time to decompress. Let's go enjoy some weed and play video games. No, no. That was always like my hope. That was always like my desire to be that kind of way. But no matter what, right? It would start out very innocently of like me doing that. Oh, okay, wow, let's do it at the end of the day. And then at the end of the day became as soon as possible. It became whenever I felt like it, right? And as many of you know, uh, that doesn't really work, at least for many of us here on that channel. Yet I would still do that, right? No, even though clearly using marijuana in that around the clock, whenever I want, no strings attached, no rules to live by, right? Then like my life started falling apart, right? And then at some point later, I would get sick of myself and be so depressed and like I'm not even getting stoned anymore, right? Like I'm using it, I'm not really getting that high anymore. It's like, man, I'm tired of myself. I'm tired of this. We need to stop, take a break. So I'll take that break. And then after a month where I've returned to the light and I'm now being responsible again and my emotions are great and oh, I'm tending to my responsibilities. I'm more present in my relationship. Okay, this is great. This is great. Let's reintroduce weed, right? And let's do it smart. Let's do it rules. Let's do it only after 5 p.m. Let's do it only after work. And it would start out that way for a day. And then within a week, right, it's back to the same old thing of doing it whenever and begin the whole cycle of neglect and avoidance and escapism all over again, right? And, you know, in my opinion, right, when that kind of behavior is going on, it's an indication of something deeper inside, whether it's your emotions or your mental, that's just not right. And I don't mean like broken, and I'm not even talking about addictive personality. I'm talking about, you know, when you're just depressed in life, forget about weed, right? You're just depressed for whatever reason. Say you got broken up with, say, you know, someone in your family passed away, a pet passed away, or maybe your job or just some major transition, and life's hard, right? Life's hard. You get depressed, you're not really able to function. And when we are in those times of depression in our life, we do things that really aren't that great, right? That's when we binge eat to cope. That's when we you know, we can't deal, so we just let me just watch TV forever because I can't deal with whatever I'm dealing with. And in a similar way, right, that's what was happening with my usage with weed. And as silly as it sounds, it's taken so many times to burn my finger on the stove to see that, oh, this is actually like a dysfunctional behavior. Obviously, we know it's dysfunctional, but as you guys all know, man, this whole if you're someone who is in the trenches of weed addiction or weed dependency to the point where, you know, you're doing it in this negative way, yet you can't stop that, or you can't rationally, critically think and be like, okay, actually, this is a behavior that's not good for me. It's clearly an indication of like something is not right internally, right? Something is not right in your own, you're going through something, and thus you're using things in this way that ultimately become abusive and self-harming. Um, And so that kind of segues, I'm just kind of diving in now. That kind of segues to the one of the big breakthroughs. I'll make another video that really highlights this because I really, really, really want people to hear this one. Um, you know, there's a lot of layers when it comes to weed addiction and weed dependency, right? There's like the pure dopamine relationship, right? Like if you are someone who your main source of relief is marijuana, when you remove that, you are vulnerable, right? You no longer have things to feel relief anymore. So that sense of like craving of like, oh my God, I need to use weed, that's like pure like you're just used to it, you're conditioned, right? There's that piece, right? And we're all very aware of that, I think. The big breakthrough that I had was realizing trauma, my personal life issue traumas way back when I first started using weed. And let me explain. So I first started I growing up through high school, I did things by the book, right? I didn't drink as an underage kid. I didn't even go to parties. All throughout my life, I was highly focused in school. I was highly active in extracurriculars. I was a very responsible kid, very organized, very ambitious, very determined. But when I got to high school, I felt like I had no cool factor. I felt like I had no social status. And I was very anxious. I was very insecure about a number of things. I was insecure about being Asian. I was insecure about being short. I was insecure about still being a virgin in high school, right? And those are very typical things to experience as a teenager, right? Those issues, but like many people at that age, I didn't have the skills to navigate that. I didn't have the maturity to navigate any of that. And what happened was I learned that smoking weed and going to parties got me everything I wanted socially. It solved these deep, deep mental health pain points that I didn't know how to solve on my own. In fact, I didn't even know I had them. Right? You're 16 years old. You don't know jack shit about anything, and so you feel this anxiety. You feel all these things, and you don't even know what that is. But you find a sense of belonging, and you run with it. Right? And so I found that sense of belonging through weed and partying, and so I had created this psychological and emotional association between basically like marijuana and like safety, marijuana and acceptance. And we're talking about deep, deep, deep mental health issues. And now I've now trained myself to see that marijuana is my solution for these deep, deep mental health issues. And so fast forward the clock. Um, and this just has me, sorry, rewind the clock. Okay, now go to college, right? High school's over, go to college. And I leaned heavily into marijuana and partying as my tool and vehicle to be cool, my tool and vehicle to feel seen, my tool and vehicle to make friends, my tool and vehicle, really my tool and vehicle to never feel the pain of feeling like this invisible, insecure, unvaluable kid, loser even. And that is so sad, right? Like that's where I was at the time. And I began to see it, and I think you can begin to see how, oh my God, deeply seated in my psychology and my mental health framework is, oh, we need marijuana to never ever feel pain again. Never ever feel emotional and psychological pain again. Never ever feel rejected. Never ever feel blah, 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 blah. And what ended up happening is in the process of leaning into the weed party culture to get my social acceptance and in a way like my self-acceptance, false sense of self-acceptance, I ironically rejected my true self, right? Because I didn't realize it at the time, but basically what I was saying to myself was, "Oh, I'm not enough, right? I can't be cool and also be the guy that gets good grades. I can't be cool and be liked, and guys won't respect me and girls won't want me if I'm myself, because that hasn't worked." Right? Because you look around in high school, even college, okay, what are girls responding to, assholes? What are girls responding to, partying? What are girls responding to, drugs? At least in my own mind at that age. And guess what? When I got to college, I made that all true, right? I finally had sex for the first time. I was getting girls more than I ever had. I was making friends more than I ever had. And I was feeling cool for the first time since I was in middle school. So I'm like looking at the wrong thing right now. Um, and so you can see how marijuana, not even like the high of it, right? It's just like the image of it that I became attached to. And so all these years, and don't get me wrong, I definitely had developed like an actual dependency to it, like chemically, because I was using it all the time. But even stronger than that chemical dependency is that psychological trauma-based emotion attachment. Okay, and so now that I've finally begun to crack that, it has left me feeling free to actually take a look at my use of it and ask myself, what do I want to do? Is it because I'm no longer trapped psychologically wise and emotionally wise to feeling so, if I get rid of this, oh my God, I'm going to go back to the loser that I was. Right? Because what were some of my biggest hangups when it came to either quitting or taking a break or using less? Was like, well, what if my friends invite me to smoke and I say no? Oh God, will they like me still? Right? These are the things that go on in my head. Oh my God, if my cousins like they want to smoke and I have to say no, and there's this sense of deep disappointment in myself, and it's like, oh my God, or what if Snoop Dogg invites me? Crazy shit. And all those things are clearly linked back to this sense of uncertainty about myself and this, right, this like pain of rejection, this pain of not belonging, this pain of you get the world of it. Right? So for the first time, I would say in this whole fucking journey, this whole weed addiction dependency journey, I've cracked that one open. Fucking finally. And obviously I've done a lot of inner work outside of this whole marijuana stuff. Like I've so that's another thing I want to share, and I will share this more in other videos. Like, getting rid of marijuana in your life is not like the cure-all, right? If anything, getting space away from using will force things to come to the surface that can then be dealt with, right? Like now I can really take it, I can deal with the anxiety that comes up in my body, and I can address it. It's like, oh wow, I'm feeling anxious. What's that about? Right? And it turns out that in a lot of ways, using weed the way that I did, I mean, stunting my growth is one way to put it, but it's like, it limited my ability to just like address myself and address my life, right? And grow and like mature, right? And so yeah, and that's kind of the gist of, what these last breakthroughs have been for me. And I really can't express to you guys how critical it was to have those breakthroughs. Because it's just, I mean, you guys know how confusing this is, how shitty it is. And I knew deep down that it wasn't just about like this, like, oh, but I want to use marijuana. How can I be disciplined? No, I really felt like there was something else. I didn't know what it was, but there was something else, some kind of dynamic going on, some type of something going on. And it really goes back to that trauma-based attachment, that trauma-based relationship of like, oh no, I need this to feel safe. I need this to feel cool. I need this to protect me from rejection. I need this to ensure and consistently provide me with this sense of I'm enough in this weird, fucked up way. I know I'm F-bombing right now, but it's like, it's warranted. All of that to say, quitting weed 2026 and quitting weed for good are really what that really translates to for me at this stage after these insights and breakthroughs is like I can finally take a look at and see that, like, oh my God, like, I don't want to use weed that often, right? Because it actually it makes me worse. And what I mean by worse is there's a couple things, right? One is, first of all, like, I enjoy my sober state. I honestly do, and that wasn't always the case. Okay, and we'll tap into that more in later videos. But there, if anything, that was, again, it's almost like there were like 17 different layers, 17,000 different layers to this whole thing, and I've slowly over time I've cracked one, cracked the other, cracked one, cracked the other, but there's just layers upon layers, and I really do enjoy my sober state, which is what that really translates to is like I enjoy myself, man. Like I enjoy myself. Like I'm very very happy to be me. That wasn't always the case. Don't get me wrong. I have my bouts with anxiety. I have my bouts with insecurity every day, right? But in terms of like a baseline, like I feel good, man. I feel good. I feel very secure. I feel very clear in like who I am and what I'm about and what makes me happy and all these different things. And the reality is when I use weed a lot, it really suppresses who I am a ton. And that has nothing to do with how much I hate or don't like weed. It has nothing to do with that. It's just pure like, oh yeah, it's like that's the distinction I should have came to when I first started, right? When I first tried it. It's like, oh wow, this is cool, like it's interesting. I enjoy like the fun of it, but like I get so unmotivated, and that's real. Like I get so unmotivated. I just like and marijuana has its place in everyone's, has its place or doesn't have its place in everyone's life at different times of their life. And I never approached it that way, right? It was like, well, I'm just gonna smoke weed and be a cool guy, smoke weed or whatever. I don't even know, right? The layers run deep. I can't go through all of them right now, but and then kind of in addition to that, and then I'm gonna start closing the video. I have no idea how long this has been. Probably like 20 minutes. The reality is that because of how much I've abused marijuana and I've had like no limits with it, no boundaries, and the history of how I used it as my primary regulator, right? The reality is that once I use it, even once, even once, my brain will fight tooth and nail to go back to what it was before. Because why would you, strictly from your brain wise, not your thinking self, not your spiritual self, not your true self, just like pure primitive animal brain, if it gets dopamine out the wazoo through marijuana, why the hell would it want to be motivated to be healthy, to make money, to pursue a career, to show up in life? Why would I do any of that when I get all my pleasure right here in this edible or right here in this bong bowl? I get to just do fucking jack shit and just like be like, yeah, buddy. Your brain's gonna want that, right? And so after doing that over and over and over and over for literally a decade plus, I have inadvertently trained my brain to get hyper fixated on how to get more and more weed once it's back. And in a future video, I'll explain this metaphor of like RAM in a computer that basically okay, when weed is out the picture, I have like full storage space available to just like go about my life and just absolutely crush it, right? But once marijuana comes back in the picture, it like takes up 70% of the RAM off top to the point where I don't even know what I need to do anymore. All I know is I want to get stoned again. So what rules can I make up for myself so that I can justify it, right? It's like, okay, fuck. We're not going to do weed before 1 because that means we're going to go back. So but all throughout the day until 1 o'clock, I'm like, all right, right? That natural motivation to like live life is quickly replaced with this trained motivation to just get weed. And that's just the nature of it at this point, right? Like that's just the nature of it. And so there's a lot of different things going on. I've shared most of what I wanted to share with you guys in this return video, this first video of 2026. If you guys have made it this far, man, I appreciate you. If you're someone who is looking for support, or maybe wants someone to really listen to and help you dissect your own versions of, trauma-based attachment, or just the pure like dopamine chemical issues of it, because that's also hard. Reach out to me. I am a life coach. I have helped people in the past. I currently help people in the past. Not in the past. I currently help people deal with those things. But I'm looking forward to, stabilizing my own integrity and alignment for myself in this area. And I'm dedicated to helping as many people as I can have these breakthroughs, because ultimately what this is about is getting your life back, getting you back, being happy with you, being happy with your life, like not needing something like marijuana to be happy or calm or relieved or at peace or fulfilled. And ultimately to end whatever negative pattern you have with weed use, get to the root of what might be behind that pattern, and then ultimately to free you from that so that you can move on to bigger and better things, right? Because, guys, it's been 15 years of this for me. 15 years of this for me. Not getting any younger. Time keeps ticking. And at some point, it's like, gotta address the elephant in the room, So that's it for now. Appreciate your viewership. I would love to hear from you guys in the comments below. What resonates with you. Maybe share with me your journey, where you're at. And yeah, I look forward to more videos to come, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.